Do you love movies? Who doesn't, right? Then add the Franchise Killer Podcast to your playlist right now. The Franchise Killer Podcast is a fun group of good friends that get together every week and break down movie franchises to see where they went wrong or went right. They discuss movies like Planet of the Apes, The Shining, Clash of the Titans, and all of your favorites. From cartoons to live action, sci-fi to dramas, comedies, they leave nothing off the table and they tell it like it is. Find the Franchise Killer Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcast, and your favorite podcast player. Share the podcast on all of your social media so your friends can add the Franchise Killer Podcast to their playlist too. The Franchise Killer Podcast. Start listening right now.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Hey guys, welcome to the program. I'm Brian Craig, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and make sure that you follow and subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to us on. If you're listening on YouTube, remember that liking the video helps a lot, right? If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. That recommends the video to other people that think like us and bring them into our program. All right, well, a lot is going on. A lot is happening. I almost don't know where to begin. You know, we're in December now, and the way news works, news cycles, when you're in the holiday time, there's no news. It's like dead news-wise. And right now, the whole world's falling apart, and there's all kinds of news. And the reason for that is we have a senile old coot who is the president right now, and there's no leadership in this country. Everything is just kind of running on its own. There's no leader, and
I call him Mr.
chaotic.
Magoo, but I like Mr. Magoo. So I don't want to insult Jim Backus, Mr. Magoo. I love Mr. Magoo, but that's kind of what he reminds me of, with his eyes closed, just bumbling around, you know, not knowing what's happening. And
Mr. Magoo was likable, lovable.
True.
And I don't remember Mr. Magoo too much. I didn't, because it's been a long time since I watched Mr. Magoo. But Mr. Magoo, was he kind of like playing it up a little bit, Mr. Magoo, or was he really? I don't remember.
He walked around with his eyes closed, and
And
I think Jim Backus did his voice.
Yeah, Jim Backus from Gilligan's Island.
You're right. He's a beloved cartoon character. But kind of, in a way, reminds me of that kind of bumbling and screwing things up and bumping into walls and not knowing what's going on.
Well, I get in a way that's Biden, but people like this. Well, anyway, regardless of that, there's no leadership. Things are completely chaotic, and there's a lot of news to talk about as a result. I just noticed today there was this god-awful school shooting in Michigan, and the kid has been charged with terrorism, and which is I was a little surprised to hear that at first. In Michigan, you can charge someone with terrorism without them having any political or religious motivations behind it. Because when you think of terrorism, you think like Al-Qaeda, things like that, ISIS, and he's being charged with terrorism. He is going to be tried as an adult. He will not have any hope of ever being free again, no matter what they find with this guy. This kid that shot up the school, which was just god-awful. But this other guy in Wisconsin that drove his truck and murdered 8 people, injured dozens more, a couple dozen more, at the Christmas parade massacre in Wisconsin.
Darrell Brooks.
Yeah, Darrell Brooks. The Christmas parade massacre killer car driver, because that's what he is, he's got bail. Now he's in jail, but Black Lives Matter started a bail fund for him on one of the crowdfunding platforms. They took it down, but he is eligible for bail, and he actually could be bailed out. And
incredible.
Obviously that's stupid, just completely stupid, especially with he's not even a first offender, right? And the thing with Darrell Brooks is all this talk about white privilege and institutionalized racism and systemic racism and all these other isms. The white kid is going to be in jail forever, no bail, which is all appropriate. But the black guy that killed more people than the kid in Michigan, he's eligible for bail.
Yeah.
So what's all this business about white privilege? If white privilege exists, shouldn't the person who killed fewer be eligible for bail, not the black guy?
Well, the media is just ignoring that whole storyline.
Yeah.
And he targeted white people in retaliation
no
for Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
And they're totally changed the narrative. There were like 3 different narratives running with that guy. And you're right. I mean, he was given bail because I think a lot of liberals, it's kind of like that scene in Woody Allen where the maid is stealing from the parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they said, well, she's colored. She deserves to steal from us because she has such a horrible life. Liberals assume that black people are just down and out, that they can't help it being criminals, that it's in their DNA, and that they should be given a break because their behavior is innate.
Yeah.
And they don't know right from wrong. I mean, I think that's how they view black African Americans, and that's why they give them breaks all the time because they feel that they don't know any better.
Well, a lot of there's some of that maybe, but with Daryl Brooks, the Christmas parade killer in Wisconsin, I think a lot of times with leftists, when someone like Daryl Brooks does what he does, they feel that he has a grievance that should be addressed. The grievance,
justified.
The grievance being that this is a racist country that he's had to endure his life in.
It's not his responsibility.
And that's right. And there's some, not that they approve of the crime, but there's some justification for their actions.
Yeah, I think so.
Because of 400 years of things that were over before any of us
He has
were born.
a right to be angry.
Yep.
He has a right to vent.
That's how liberals think. Yes.
I think it's a combination of those
Absolutely.
two things for sure.
Yeah.
That he has a grievance. Looting and burning down businesses is just people expressing their frustration because of the man and the system, and they don't have any other way to express themselves. It's really bigoted and
look what's
racist.
going on with these looters in the stores in New York and in California,
Yeah.
right? They're looting these high-end stores. And in the Christmas shopping season, I've seen shoppers interviewed in California who say, I'm not going to go to the mall. I'm afraid to go to the mall.
Yeah, people are leaving California in droves because of this.
Yeah, and you really don't see any national outrage for this looting. And the looting that's going on in these stores, the reason it's happening, Jen Psaki was blaming COVID for the looting in the stores because, of course, COVID is driving people to steal Louis Vuittons.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a side effect of the vaccine.
Exactly. If it's poverty, they steal food, things that they really need, not, and it doesn't look like they're hurting too much because when they flee the stores, they all have nice cars out front that they have parked on the along the sidewalk, the getaway cars. But the shopping raids on these stores, the reason for that's not COVID. A lot of it is also this social justice warrior nonsense.
Yeah.
It's a form of that, and it's really there's a lot of bad things going on in the country right now.
Well, it goes with how liberals think that all black people are downtrodden and grow up in the ghetto and have no other choice, and they have a grievance with society. They have bridges they can't get through, and they have all these other things in society working against them. So why not let them steal? I mean, they should steal. They should run their car over white people because they have a genuine grievance with the world. And they don't, everybody has problems. And there's a lot of anger in the world, that doesn't give you the right to go out and kill people or go and steal a bunch of fancy purses.
Yeah,
everybody knows right from wrong.
Yeah, that's the way it is. For the life of me, though, I don't understand why Alec Baldwin has not been arrested. He killed a woman who has a young child, and he shot a second person, and he's out there. He's back in New York, which is
because he didn't pull the trigger, Brian. That's why.
Well, Alec Baldwin. If you or I or anyone listening to this program did what Alec Baldwin did, you would be arrested. You'd be arrested, and you would be charged with at least manslaughter. I don't think Alec Baldwin went in there to kill someone that day, but he killed someone. And
you never know.
This was not an accident like like a car accident, or something. A car accident. If there's just a car accident and someone's killed, that's one thing. But if someone is driving drunk, which means they're reckless and there's an accident,
right,
it's a different thing.
And you get charged with vehicular manslaughter.
Exactly. And
he should be charged with something
reckless.
And I think this interview he did with Stephanopoulos, I think it was a big mistake. And for him to come out there and say, I didn't pull the trigger. Well, that's how guns work. Guns don't automatically shoot people.
Yeah.
And then he said, I didn't point the gun at her and pull the trigger. Well, how else did she get shot? You have to point the gun at somebody. The gun doesn't just have a spirit of its own and just point at someone and pull its own trigger. It doesn't. Maybe because he's a liberal, he doesn't understand how guns work.
That's right.
But he pulled the trigger. He pointed it at her. And I think this interview might get him arrested, because if you watch a lot of crime shows,
it could.
There are many times that an officer will say on the show that a person did an interview, like a high-profile case, and they did an interview and they were arrested because of what was said on that interview. They said something that pissed the cops off, or they said something that tipped them off. I don't know how the investigation is going, but I think he should be charged with something. I mean, he did take somebody's life, and for him to go on TV and cry, he's more concerned with saving his horrible reputation. He didn't have a good reputation in the first place. He's more concerned with saving his reputation than with this woman and her being dead and leaving her kids without a mother.
I noticed, after Alec Baldwin killed that lady and shot the director, he was palling around with her husband and child. I noticed the husband and child of the woman Alec Baldwin killed were not there with him during the Stephanopoulos interview. So there's been a change there, and it really shows you the arrogance of celebrity. And a lot of people say, well, he's rich and he's famous. Alec Baldwin, he'll get away with this. This happened in New Mexico. It didn't happen in California. The movie industry has a lot of influence in California, obviously. New Mexico is another thing. Okay. And now that he's out there doing interviews, even if they didn't want to charge him, now that he's doing interviews, people are going to start talking. Alec Baldwin said that he did not pull the trigger. What he did with that is he gave legs to the story where people are going to start examining that. And you're going to see things on television and online of people showing that gun and how it works. On YouTube, there's a lot of people that are gun experts on YouTube that have YouTube channels, and I watch and subscribe to some of them. And, because you can learn a lot about guns. And when I was looking to buy a new gun, I was watching some people on YouTube with different guns demonstrate them and things like this before I decided. And those guys on YouTube, I promise you, they're going to do videos trying to fire that weapon without pulling the trigger and seeing if they can do it, if they can, what goes into it. So what Alec Baldwin has done is given something for people to say that hasn't been said before about that story. And
he's stirring things up again.
Which was very, very stupid. But you know what? I don't like Alec Baldwin. I liked Hunt for Red October. I thought he was very good in Glenn Ross.
He's a good actor.
I like that one movie he did with Anthony Hopkins where they were in the plane crash and they were in the wild. I forgot the name
with
of
Elle McPherson.
That was a good movie.
Yeah, we should watch that again. That was
a good movie. But personally, he's never been a nice guy. Since he's been famous, he's been getting in fights with people. And he's a hothead.
I mean, how do we know that he didn't get in a fight with this woman and was pissed off and lost it? We know he has a temper. I'm not saying he did or didn't, but we don't know. We're only hearing what his side of the story is. And from day one, he was, I took her out to dinner the night before. She's my friend and this and that and crying all the time. He's an actor. So any actor that cries, I'm not going to trust that at all. I mean, that's what they do for a living.
He's a very good actor.
He's a very good actor. So I think that he needs to be charged at least with third-degree manslaughter, accidental, whatever. And I think him going on TV and actually having the gall to say, I didn't pull the trigger, I didn't point the gun, well, then what the hell happened? Yeah. I mean, I think that was a big mistake. And it's going to get the police very interested in him.
Doubt.
And him maybe when they weren't interested in him.
No doubt.
He should have done the interview if he was going to do it. I mean, anyway. And he should have just said, I did not know there was a bullet in the gun. I was practicing for my scene, and it was an accident. That's believable because he would not know there was a bullet. When you're on a movie set, there's people that have different jobs, and somebody else's job was to make sure that gun was clear. And they told him it was clear, according to his story. But to go on TV and say, I didn't point the gun and I didn't pull the trigger, well, then how the hell did she get shot? Because obviously that's what happened.
Yeah, that's exactly right. He's making it worse. And what's going to happen is they're going to do an examination. and find out that this gun cannot fire on its own, which we know guns don't work on their own. They take human actions with the guns to fire, and it's going to make him look even worse. Now, I want to tell everyone there are some great deals for the holiday season at MyPillow.com. Now, if you go to MyPillow.com and click on the radio listener special page, you'll see all these incredible deals that I'm talking about. With our promo code Kane at checkout, there is something on your gift-giving list. Well, no matter who's on your gift-giving list, you will find something for them at MyPillow.com. Now, again, our promo code is Kane, Kane. Look at this, Kathy. The regular MyPillow that we sleep on, the regular price, $69.98. That's what we paid for mine.
Yeah.
Because my MyPillow, we didn't have our promo code. They weren't advertising with us at the time. With our promo code Kane at checkout, you can get the regular MyPillow, the one that we sleep on every night, for just $19.98.
That's amazing.
$19.98, right? That's
you
the lowest price ever.
send one to everybody on your Christmas list.
Yeah. In fact, maybe we should buy a couple of these for down the road when we have to give gifts later in the year, even after Christmas.
That's a good idea.
The 6-piece MyPillow towel set. Now, we have the MyPillow towel set. The MyPillow towel sets are the perfect towels. I don't understand I'm not the inventor like Mike Lindell. He's very brilliant. This towel works like a towel's supposed to do.
They are the best. I don't know what he does, but his products are very, very well made, and his towels are the best towels I've ever had.
No doubt.
They are amazing.
No doubt. Now, the regular price for the 6-piece MyPillow towel set is $110. With our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, just $39.99. $39.99. Isn't that something?
That's amazing.
There's many other specials here. There's just one more, though, I want to mention. This is a big one. The MyPillow 3-inch mattress topper. Now, Kathy and I, this is the mattress topper that we have, the 3-inch mattress topper. It is the thickest mattress topper that Mike Lindell makes at MyPillow. It will change your life. We got it because Kathy was suffering from back pain. We've got a pretty new mattress. We got the MyPillow mattress topper, and Kathy woke up the next day, no back pain.
I don't wake up in pain anymore. It's really nice.
Yeah, and what I noticed about the MyPillow mattress topper right away is I was sleeping in until my alarm clock went off for the first time in my life. In fact, on the weekend, the first night we got it on a Saturday. We slept on it on Saturday night, woke up Sunday morning, and the sun was out. I am always up before the sun comes out. Not with the MyPillow mattress topper. It will change your life. It makes a great gift, too. And the MyPillow mattress topper comes in a great package, perfect for wrapping under the tree. With our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane, 50% off the MyPillow mattress topper. 50% off. And this is the 3-inch mattress topper.
That's amazing.
50%
That's a good deal.
Yeah, so go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials. You'll see that and a bunch of other specials as well. You can take advantage of all of them with the promo code Kane at checkout. Okay, so Whoopi Goldberg and the Coven of the View, they're doing what they do. They're talking about this Roe v. Wade decision that was up before the Supreme Court this week, and Whoopi Goldberg had some words. Listen.
Any of you men have any eggs or the possibility of carrying a fetus? How dare you talk about what a fetus wants? You have no idea.
Okay. Now, here we have Whoopi Goldberg, apparently she knows what fetuses want. She's the fetus whisperer.
Well, I do know one thing. A fetus does not want to be killed.
I would think so.
A fetus wants to live.
I think we can.
So, this whole abortion thing.
This thing with Whoopi, though, she said, how many of you men have eggs? How dare you even say? Can she have a child at this point in her life?
No.
Can she is well beyond the childbearing years. In fact, Whoopi Goldberg has as much chance of becoming pregnant as I do.
Yes.
So
I'm sure she's gone through menopause.
So should she?
I'm sure her eggs are all dried up.
Yeah. So does she no longer have a right to speak out on abortions? And
apparently, by that argument,
maybe this fetus whisperer power is something that's held over from that power she had in Ghost with Patrick Swayze.
Yes, maybe
when she could talk to the ghost,
to the fetus. But I'm sure the fetus would tell her, "Please don't kill me."
Whoopi Goldberg in The View. This thing about the case in front of the Supreme Court. Okay, Roe v. Wade. I'm not going to go through a whole educational thing. I'm not going to insult your intelligence about that. But I want to just say briefly what Roe v. Wade, if it was overturned, what it would mean, because the media don't want to tell you this because they want to use Roe v. Wade to scare you. If Roe v. Wade ended today, that does not outlaw abortions in this country. What Roe v. Wade does is the federal government has authority over what happens in the states with abortions. If Roe v. Wade were gone, a state could outlaw abortion. No doubt about it. A state could outlaw abortion, but there would still be abortions in other states. And even some Republican states wouldn't outlaw abortions. In fact, even in Mississippi, they're not talking about outlawing abortions. They're talking about stopping abortions when you get to like the 4th month.
Right.
Okay? So even there, they're not talking about stopping abortions. But if Roe v. Wade was gone today, there would still be abortion in this country. And I think, this is what I think is going on here. I think the Democrats want the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court, they don't render decisions right away. We're going to find out in a few months what the Supreme Court is going to do on this. And I don't think they're going to overturn Roe v. Wade. The way that the Chief Justice was talking, it was not good. But I think the Democrats want the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade so that the Democrats have a cause again. The Democrats have no issues now, right?
Yeah.
They've got Biden and Kamala Harris. They're creating a disaster in the country. Next year, they're expected to lose in the midterms big time. No one expects them to win the presidency in 2024, and they really do not have any issues, the Democrats, to run on. And if Roe v. Wade were overturned, Republicans running in the midterms would be advocating limiting abortions in their states, and the Democrats would have an issue. We gotta stand for abortion rights. So I think the Democrats want to end Roe v. Wade as much as the pro-life activists right now, because all abortion is to the Democrats is an issue. They don't care about the women. They don't care about the decision. They don't care pro-life, pro-choice. They care about how the abortion issue helps benefit them when it comes to elections. So I think they want to overturn Roe v. Wade. Listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. Don't go anywhere. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be back right after this.
The book, Let Me Perish from Starvation's Love by Limelight, is now available on Amazon. When Limelight's mind goes a-wandering, look out. From hysterically funny to tragic, this collection of short stories and poems will have you scratching your skull and wondering what kind of person can come up with these weird, wacky words. Let Me Perish from Starvation's Love will surely keep you entertained and ultimately expose you to seeing the world in a new light. Let Me Perish from Starvation's Love by Limelight is available on Amazon and Kindle and paperback on Amazon. Order your copy right now. Porsche, Mercedes, Lamborghinis. If you love amazing cars and luxury vehicles, you will love the TikTok Go Noop Noop. Go Noop Noop focuses on crazy cars and vehicles. They have videos of crazy supercars, hypercars, trucks, luxury vehicles, and a lot more. Soon they will be adding SEMA, one of the world's most exclusive car shows, and they'll take you along for the ride with insane world-exclusive content that's coming soon. So get your heart racing and follow Go Noop Noop. That's GONOOPNOOP. They're looking forward to sharing their love of cars with you. Go Noop Noop on TikTok. Everyone loves sweatshirts. They're comfy, soft, and cozy. If you're looking for adorable sweats with cute graphics and fun messages, you need to check out Operation Kindness Art on Etsy. That's all one word with a capital O and capital A. They have sweatshirts for dog lovers, bridal parties, and brides, as well as religious-themed sweats, Christmas, and more. The designs are sweet with pastel colors, and the sweatshirts are made of soft fabrics with a classic fit. These sweats are great for yourself or as a gift. They're handmade and unique, and they're perfect to keep you warm in the colder times of year. Promoting kindness through slogan sweats for all sizes. Operation Kindness Art on Etsy.com. That's all one word with a capital O and capital A. Operation Kindness Art on Etsy.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast. Broadcasting from sunny South Florida, Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Now, when we get past the first of the year is when this January 6th committee is going to start heating up. And they have a lot of people that they're trying to call up and everything. And the other day, Alex Jones said he's one of the witnesses now, Alex Jones, which tells you they got nothing.
Is this going to be televised? Because I really want to see this. I think the American people need to see this.
I hope so. And Alex Jones was a very bad person for them to call because Alex Jones was in Patriot Purge.
He's unpredictable.
Well, but this is the real deal. This is like insurrection charges and stuff. They're trying to throw people.
But I feel he's kind of a Roger Stone type character. And,
not this time. No, Kathy, you get 30 years in prison for something like this. You know what I mean? And I saw him online the other day talking about this. So they called him up as a witness, and in Tucker Carlson's special Patriot Purge, you see Alex Jones there on his bullhorn telling people to not go towards the Capitol.
Right.
He was trying to stop them. And he said the other day he's going to take the Fifth Amendment. And he said the reason I'm going to take the Fifth is because that's what they do. You say something,
right,
and they twist it around. Next thing you know, they're charging you with perjury. So he says the only way I can protect myself is if I take the Fifth. So one of the members of the committee said that taking the Fifth Amendment, his name is Benny Thompson, okay, and he's chairman of the January 6th committee. Mm-hmm. He says using the Fifth Amendment infers guilt. Now, for those of you—
That's not true.
Yeah. For those of you that are not in the United States, I know we got a lot of listeners in Canada, Australia, and in the UK, the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution, you cannot be required in the United States to give testimony that would incriminate yourself.
Right.
It's a right against self-incrimination.
Just like a spouse cannot be forced to testify against
That's right.
their husband or wife.
They can by choice, though.
By choice, but they cannot be forced. That's why some criminals get married.
Yes.
So they can't testify against each other.
Yeah. Epstein tried to do that, I think. Didn't he try to marry one of the victims? Was that Jeffrey Epstein that was going to do that? I can't remember. But they know that a lot of these people are going to go up there and take the Fifth, especially Alex Jones, because he said he's going to. That does not infer guilt. It doesn't mean you've done anything wrong. It's just another constitutional guarantee that we have in this country. But, when this guy says this, he's a senior member of the House of Representatives. He's chairman of this January 6th committee. There has been in this country such a cultural shift in the last few years, and liberals do not think that American law, that the Constitution applies. This really started with Obama. Obama used to talk about this before he was president. When he was in state government, he did some interviews on public radio, and he wrote his books, and he would talk about this. But when he became president, he had to clean up his act a little bit. But Obama said quite often that the Constitution was written by white slave owners for the purpose of maintaining white supremacy, so therefore it doesn't apply.
Well, so that means in
longer.
his mind, the Constitution's really invalid.
Correct.
But that's the way it was back then. It doesn't make it invalid. That's just the way the country was at that time in the 18th century. So,
this is a good. The Fifth Amendment is an awesome thing because when you're in a position like Alex Jones or some of these other people in front of the committee, you're going up against the whole government.
I don't think Alex Jones is going to plead the Fifth. No, I don't think he can control himself. I think he will talk. Really? Especially if he's on television. I don't think he can stay quiet. I know he says that now, but I think they will what they do is they scare you into talking because they'll tell you, they'll threaten you and be like, well, if you're not going to talk, then we're going to charge you with this or that or. So I think he will talk. I think
he'd be crazy too.
I think we'll see what happens. I really hope this is on TV. I think the American people need to see it. And if it's not on television, it's because they're afraid they don't have enough of a case and they don't want to be humiliated. But I would like to see it on television. I'm very interested in that. When does it supposed to start? January?
Well, we don't have dates on all these different things yet, but I'm assuming after the first of the year because Congress is basically off right now. They're working on these bills that they can't get through and everything else.
I want to talk about real quick this thing on the show this morning just because a couple people wanted me to call in, and you were talking about to Steve how George Bush hanging out with Bill Clinton and how you don't hang out with people that I wouldn't approve of. Or something like that, how you said it.
Bill Clinton has been accused by Juanita Broaddrick of rape, There have been other women like Kathleen Willey and Paula Jones who have accused Bill Clinton of assault. And I think most people agree that these things are all true.
Well, and even put that aside, even put those allegations aside, he's still a scum.
Yeah, and George W. Bush has been best friends with Bill Clinton for many years. He calls Bill Clinton his brother by another mother. And I just don't think that married men in particular should be hanging around with horn dog players like Bill Clinton, who have been accused of sexual assault, rape, and harassment. I just don't think someone that's a decent married man, or even a decent man who's not married, hangs around people like that.
I can't see how Laura Bush would be okay with this. I mean, she just always seemed to me like a woman that had some class. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would have a problem.
Yeah. Class like Joe Biden.
Yeah, here's the thing with Brian. I don't tell Brian who he can or cannot hang out with, and he doesn't tell me. It's never been an issue, though. And we've married 25 years tomorrow. Our anniversary is tomorrow.
Yep.
25 years. And it's never been an issue. There's never been a time where Brian was around somebody where I was like uncomfortable. Brian's got pretty good, he's pretty picky who he hangs out with. And the same with me. He's never said to me, now he hasn't met some of my sorority sisters and thought they were a little strange, or to say the least, just a little kooky. But he would never say to me, I don't want you hanging out with her or anything like that.
Yeah.
But if Brian was hanging out with someone,
accused rapist and things.
Well, just anybody that made me uncomfortable in any way. If he was hanging out with a guy that I did not like or felt weird or whatever, and I said to him, I really don't like you hanging out with this guy. And I would tell him why. And Brian is the kind of guy who, we might talk about it back and forth a little bit, but then he would eventually say, okay, if you don't want me to hang out with him, I won't. And that's what you do. You put your spouse first. But I would never ask Brian to not hang out with somebody unless I had very, very good reason. But maybe in other marriages, it's a thing,
Yeah.
We don't really hang out with single people or anything like that. Sometimes when you have a marriage and you have a wife who has single girlfriends or divorced, they might not be the best influence on the married wife. They might take her out and get her drunk and want her to hang out with them more and more, and that can cause problems in a marriage. So it's a tricky situation.
Well, one thing about women, okay, now, and this is obviously something I've not personally experienced, but I do know people who have had this happen. When women have friends, and some of you ladies in the audience, I think you could vouch for this. I think most women that are married will know and agree with what I'm going to say.
Okay.
When women are friends and one of the friends gets divorced and they still hang around, the divorced woman wants the married woman to be divorced too.
To have a buddy to go get drunk and hook up with guys with.
And I've seen situations with guys where everything's fine. Their wife's best friend or one of her friends gets divorced.
Right.
Next thing you know, they want to get divorced. And there's three other women that are leaving their husbands because the woman gets divorced. She starts partying. Oh, how great it is. And then they start working on them about how their husband's taking advantage of them and everything else.
Exactly. Plus, women complain to their friends sometimes about their husbands.
And then the divorced women grab on that.
That's right.
So I really would not want you, Kathy, hanging out with divorced women because I've seen
or vice versa.
I have seen nothing. You don't want me hanging out with divorced women either?
Yeah, well, definitely. No, I mean divorced. I don't know the men. I'm not so concerned.
But I don't think married women should be hanging out with divorced women. Now that's different if it's your sister or something, or your mother. I'm talking about like your girlfriends. I don't think married women should be going out with divorced women.
I'm not going to take it that far. Okay, if I have a friend and she's been a friend of mine a long time and she happens to get divorced, I'm not going to stop being her friend because she's divorced.
No, but you can't go out hanging out with them, going out to happy hour.
The only time it would become an issue is if there starts to be problems in the marriage.
Yeah.
And the husband picks
then it's
up
too late.
on.
Then it's too late.
No, but that's not realistic. You can't tell your wife you can't hang out with her because she got a divorce now. I mean, you're supposed to be there for your friends when they do get divorced. But if the only time it would become an issue is if you were hanging out with somebody or I was hanging out with somebody and it was making the other person uncomfortable for good reason, or you started to have problems in the marriage, because people are influenced by their friends. And like I said, it's never been an issue for us where Brian or I would be around people that made the other person uncomfortable. But you have to be a little careful if you're married and you hang out with a lot of single people. Just be a little careful because they're going to want to do different things. And you just have to, if it's a problem in the marriage, but people on the radio or Steve and Richie, the caller, were getting the impression that you need my permission to hang out with people. That's absolutely ridiculous.
They knew what I meant. That is
not how it is at all.
They knew what I meant.
But when you're married, and you could take it from me, I've been married to one person for 25 years tomorrow. When you're married, you're a team. And you will not be successful unless you act as a team. That doesn't mean you share a brain and you control each other. It means if something makes you uncomfortable that your spouse is doing, or they're hanging out with somebody that for good reason you don't like them hanging out with that person, you tell your spouse, and your spouse should honor your wishes. Yeah. So if I was hanging out with a friend, and she was a very bad influence on me and it was causing problems in our marriage, you would say to me, Kathy, ever since you started hanging out with so-and-so, we've been having problems. And if I was a good wife, I would say, you know what, you're right. I'm not going to hang out with her anymore, because your marriage comes first. Otherwise, you're going to end up like Steve and Richie and on your third marriage.
Yeah. What if
that's okay? Fine.
What if I started hanging out with Michael Avenatti? People say, "What are you hanging out with this sleaze bucket for?"
Well, yeah,
exactly.
You're guilt by association.
Exactly. Now, I want to take a moment to thank all of our Patreon supporters for their support of the program. Thank you so much to all of our Patreon supporters. It does help us out a lot, and it is greatly, greatly appreciated. And our top Patreon supporters get a live on-air thank you shout-out on every episode. So all the names you're about to hear are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, Gary, Chuck, Rick, Rich, Dee, Jacklyn, and Pamela. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. And if you want to become a Patreon supporter, there is a link in the description of the episode. You click that link, it'll walk you through everything and tell you exactly how to become a Patreon supporter if you would like to become one. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. Do not go anywhere. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be right back.
From author and veteran Lex R. Brown comes the book Grit, Grind, Grow, a guide to conquering career transition, available on Amazon. Making a transition in life can be overwhelming, but Grit, Grind, Grow is designed to help you approach your career like an entrepreneur so that you are always adaptable and empowered to land bigger and better career offers quickly, frequently, and consistently. Each year, 250,000 members of the armed forces leave the military to reintegrate into the civilian workforce. Grit, Grind, Grow is written by a military veteran who has proven the information in this book firsthand and has empowered numerous others to replicate those successes. This is a must-read for transitioning military veterans, military spouses, those currently unemployed, recent college grads, professionals of color, seasoned professionals over the age of 50, and anyone else searching for solutions and seeking better results. Order your copy right now. Grit, Grind, Grow, a guide to conquering career transition, from author and veteran Lex R. Brown on Amazon. From author of historical romance, suspense, thrillers, and many other genres, Sherry Chapman, comes the book A Killer Revisited, available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. A Killer Revisited is a thriller you will not be able to put down. It's a pulse-pounding thriller with lots of suspense that will keep you on the edge of your seat. In A Killer Revisited, Detective Jules Polton is one of the best at tracking down murderers, but something beyond her experience came to Edmond, Oklahoma. When the serial killer reaches out in a cryptic letter, it reveals a government conspiracy at the highest level. Will she be able to stop an army experiment gone rogue? Find out when you read A Killer Revisited from author Sherry Chapman. Available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback. Order your copy right now. Have you wanted to get involved in investing but didn't know how or even where to begin? Then visit ExoticExpansion.com. ExoticExpansion.com offer financial education and tools to help users just like you grow financially. And don't worry if you're busy at work. They will send you stock signals through text and Discord, so you just follow their calls on when to buy and sell. It's that easy. They offer monthly and yearly membership levels to fit your budget. Membership includes one-on-one coaching, full-time advice, and stock calls. There's a members area where you can view their weekly picks, have access to their top 20 verified stock picks that always are updating, as well as a net worth tracker, and there's a lot more too. ExoticExpansion.com's goal is to provide you with the education that will enable you to achieve your financial goals. ExoticExpansion.com also have an app that's available in the Android store. ExoticExpansion.com. Crypto, stocks, Discord, tech signals, long and short-term trading, value investing, options, and financial education. It's all at ExoticExpansion.com.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast. Broadcasting from sunny South Florida, Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back to the program, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host, Kathy. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Mark Meadows, who we had on the show recently, he's got a new book out. And there's an interesting story in this Mark Meadows book. And Mark Meadows, if you did not hear my interview with Mark Meadows, go back and check it out.
Very good.
It was very good. Yeah, it was. And I really enjoyed talking to him. Listen to this. This is from Mark Meadows' book. Donald Trump would likely have taken the law into his own hands to fight off Black Lives Matter protesters trying to enter the White House last year and knocked their heads in, according to his former chief of staff, that's Mark Meadows, if the Secret Service had not led him into the secure bunker. Mark Meadows' account in his new book, The Chief's Chief, aims to offer a Trumpist twist to a story that embarrassed the former president last year. That's what they're saying in the Daily Mail. It didn't embarrass him.
Not at all.
Black Lives Matter and Antifa at night attacked the White House. They injured dozens of Secret Service agents and the security detail out front. It was
scary.
And what happened is the media put out some fake news. They put out a photograph, or I don't remember if it was a photo or video of the White House with all the lights off and claiming that they were in the bunker with the lights off. That picture was inaccurate. They didn't have the lights off. President Trump insisted he was in the White House bunker in order to inspect it, and not because he was taken there for his own safety, as protesters tried to invade the White House in May of last year. This is an interesting thing, okay? When the January 6th Capitol breach happened, the entire Congress and the vice president were taken to secure locations.
Oops, sorry.
Yes? Okay.
Something popped up on my phone.
Okay.
Oops.
They took everybody into secure locations in the basement of the Capitol, and everyone says that's, there was a security breach. That's what you do. There was a security breach at the White House. The Secret Service told the president and the first family they had to go to the bunker. Why is that cowardly? I don't get that. A few hours later, the White House entered code red. Protesters had jumped the fence on the Treasury side of the compound. The Treasury building's right next to the White House. And they were running toward the Oval Office, writes Mark Meadows.
That is scary.
Yeah, why isn't this called an insurrection?
Exactly.
This was an attack on the White House. That's
incredible. I didn't even know this happened.
I didn't realize how bad it was.
No.
I thought they were just at the gate harassing. Yeah, so let me go back over this. A few hours later, the White House entered code red. Protesters had jumped the fence on the Treasury side of the compound. They were running towards the Oval Office, writes Mark Meadows, according to excerpts obtained by the Daily Beast ahead of the book's publication next week. See, we had an early exclusive with Mark Meadows promoting the book like 2 months before it came out. I'm sure that if President Trump had the choice, he would have headed out to the lawns and knocked their heads in one by one. And, President Trump has a history of that. Where there was some incidents in New York where he got out of the limo and saved somebody that was in trouble once before he was president.
He's not a wimp.
No. But he didn't have a choice. When it comes to the Secret Service, no one does.
Either you do what they say.
Either you do what they say or they pick you up and make you do it. So when the Secret Service asked President Trump to head downstairs to the White House bunker, he complied. He knew that he could go to the bunker with a few agents by his side, or he could go on their shoulders kicking and screaming. For everyone's sake, the first option was better. This is all in Mark Meadows' new book. Details of his trip to the bunker quickly leaked to the New York Times. Mark Meadows fingers White House officials, the president's former press secretary Stephanie Grissom, Emma Doyle, or members of the vice president's team for revealing Trump's movements.
I think Stephanie Grisham, she's a traitor, and she wrote that book about Melania and Trump. I think she was definitely leaking things to the press throughout, from the very beginning.
I think
no doubt about it. She was a big leaker.
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
And this is the thing. Okay, I don't think many people knew. 'Cause I did not know how serious the Black Lives Matter Antifa attack on the White House was. Like I said, I thought they were just at the gate, harassing people at the gate. I didn't realize how serious it was. But you know who did, though? The White House press corps, because they're there.
That's right.
And they witnessed it, and they know exactly what happened.
The news does not tell you what's going on.
This happened long before the Capitol breach. The Capitol breach was wrong. I'm not defending any of that. But this is also a form of an insurrection against not just the president, but the first family. And why are these people not in the D.C. Gitmo? Why aren't they being held?
Where are they? What happened to them?
Nothing happened to them. They went about their business after that. Nothing happened. I don't think there was one arrest here. No.
This is why, what happened with Kyle happened, and I'm surprised it didn't happen more often, to be honest with you. Well, with the Black Lives Matter, they were terrorizing the whole country. It was very scary.
Well, this goes
that
back,
summer.
This goes back. Okay, this thing with the Capitol breach and this thing at the White House. This goes back to what we were talking about. Why the Wisconsin Christmas parade killer gets bail after the Christmas parade massacre, and the school shooter doesn't. The school shooter shouldn't get bail
because they have a genuine grievance.
Yeah, and this goes in with the Black Lives Matter and Antifa attackers on the White House. Well, Trump, they had a right to be angry at Trump. They had,
exactly. He's a horrible person, so why not?
Not reporting this is justifying it, and this is the first attack on the White House since the War of 1812 when the British did it. There have been people that have climbed the fence that were shot and killed on spot with past presidents back in the 70s and things like this. But there were Puerto Rican nationalists who tried to get to President Truman when he was staying at the Blair House when they were remodeling the White House, and there was some deaths involved in that. But that was just a couple of people. This was a large gang, a large mob.
Scary.
And this is like French Revolution kind of stuff going on here.
Yeah, really.
And
they would totally justify that, take them out to the guillotine.
Yeah, exactly. And they wouldn't have left on their own like the people did at the Capitol breach. I'm not justifying the Capitol breach, but everything's put into. We were watching. I think it was. I think this was on HBO Go. I think we were going through the different apps last night on TV, and I think this was on HBO Go. They had a CNN special. They called it Trump's Insurrection about the Capitol breach. Yep. Trump's Insurrection. That's the CNN special.
That's the title.
On the Capitol breach. Well, what about this?
Yep.
And
nothing to see here.
And it's so bizarre how the media portray Trump as a coward.
They made such a big deal about him walking across Lafayette Square and holding up a Bible. That was talked about in the news for 2 weeks. Yeah. But this they completely ignore.
That's right.
It's just amazing. Yeah. The news does not tell you what's really going on.
And they never will.
It's reality TV, and they tell you they're the gatekeepers, and they tell you what they want you to hear. And what they don't want you to hear, they don't tell you. They just bury it all the time. So you have to listen to shows like ours. You have to do research. You have to read lots of articles and dig around and, get to the truth.
I think that's frightening. That's really frightening.
Trending politics. It says scientists who pushed COVID hysteria confess totalitarian agenda to control populations with fear. Scientists who were instrumental in spreading COVID hysteria around the globe nearly as fast as the virus itself have now come forward to express regret over furthering a totalitarian agenda. The members of the Scientific Pandemic Influenza Group on Behavior, a group of British scientists, confessed that public health authorities are pursuing an agenda to control populations with fear. Scientists on a committee that encouraged the use of fear to control people's behavior during the pandemic have admitted its work is unethical and totalitarian. Members of this group expressed regret about the tactics in a new book about the role of psychology on government's COVID-19 response. So that's interesting that it says here, this group warned in March last year that ministers needed to increase the perceived level of personal threat because a substantial number of people still do not feel sufficiently personally threatened. So what they did is they amped it up because they didn't feel that people were reacting properly And they use fear, this is nothing new, to get people to comply. Like this new Omicron variant, which is very mild. Nobody has died from it. And many doctors have come forward and said it's nothing. It's very mild. It's nothing to worry about.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, they want to have more lockdowns. Europe is on lockdown again. That is a prime example of them using this virus and scaring people into, now, for what reason, I don't know. But, they have their they have their reasons, and they have a reason they want to do it that I'm sure involves money. It always does. And so it's a way to control people, control your movements, control what you do. Like we had talked about how with the COVID, the lockdown, how Amazon's stock went through the roof, how they made billions and billions of dollars. And all these other corporations and pharmaceutical companies are all making billions and billions of dollars off this virus. I'm sure that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah. How
many local businesses, mom and pop stores, and now you've seen a cultural shift. My best friend, her husband works for FedEx, and they're religious, they're Mormon. And she told me he hates Christmas now because they are so busy and understaffed that they just cannot keep up with the load, because she said now after COVID, nobody goes shopping anymore. They buy everything online. Yeah. Now I buy things online because I can't go shopping. I'm disabled. Brian works a lot, and it's easier for me because I have to take my oxygen and all this stuff, and I get tired. But there are people who are perfectly healthy that just do not go to stores. And now there's a campaign. There was a guy on TikTok that works for FedEx, and he showed his truck. He opened up his truck and showed the number of boxes he has to deliver in one day. And he's like, I'm begging you to shop in person. Yeah. Like, they are so overloaded, but there's been a shift in the culture. More kids are being schooled at home. And I tell Brian all the time, someday we will be a society where nobody leaves their damn house. Yeah. They'll order food and they'll order groceries in. Everybody will be a shut-in.
It's Wall-E.
Yeah, it's Wall-E. They'll have relationships online. You'll see people that get married that never meet in person. You think I'm kidding? That will happen someday. And that's the way the society, and I think with COVID, it was a huge shift. Who benefits from that? The Amazon.
Well, and the big donors to, Jeff Bezos just gave millions
drug
to
companies.
Obama's foundation.
Exactly, now, $100 million.
Now, listen, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, there's a lot more to talk about. Do not go anywhere. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. We'll be back right after this.
From author Jacklyn Six Colors Gibbs comes your next must-read book, Until Now, available on Amazon. Until Now is a book about the first 25 years of the author's life. It includes childhood trauma, abuse, and the author being forced to hide their true self, being abandoned, and many, many other things. The author's hope is to reach readers that can relate and let them know that they are not alone in their trauma. They are not at fault for the terrible things that's happened to them. They are not victims, but are survivors, and together we can get through anything. Author Jacklyn Six Colors Gibbs has been writing poetry since childhood, and Until Now includes the author's life story, but also includes related poetry between chapters. Until Now, from author Jacklyn Six Colors Gibbs. Order your copy right now on Amazon. From author Roger Schaefer comes the book COVID-26 Zombie, available on Amazon. This book was actually completed in late 2019, prior to a lot of the events that are occurring right now in today's world. This must-read book was intended to show how the 1% are in total control, and the 1% wanted everything, but at a cost that was never imagined. Yet, this book imagined it all. That dream of the perfect world, according to the 1%, a world which only the 1% matter. As for the remaining humans, they would have no rights or freedom, living in dystopia and under the complete control of the 1%. That didn't happen. Instead, mankind has created not one, but two new species that are Z and zombies. Z to a zombie is similar to a relationship of a dog to a human, since fear has been used to control humans since the beginning of time. Fear is the second most powerful tool to use against people. The only thing more powerful than fear is hope. Hope is the one and only thing more powerful than fear. COVID-26 Zombie from author Roger Schaefer is available on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and audiobook. Order your copy right now. There's a podcast that you will want to add to your playlist, Warriors for Christ. That's the number 4. Warriors for Christ is a Christian podcast providing biblical teaching without the doctrines of man. In other words, they like to let the Bible explain itself. The format includes non-denominational readings and teachings from the Bible. They also have interviews and whatever the Lord puts on their hearts to present. Life in this world can be very stressful and filled with anxieties. Warriors for Christ will give you the biblical information you need to help deal with all life has to bring. Warriors for Christ confronts many false doctrines which are pervasive in this age and what some call the church in a box. And they also offer a full gospel ministry. Find Warriors for Christ on Podomatic, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Player FM, Stitcher, Deezer, Amazon Podcast, and Spotify. Warriors for Christ. Share the podcast on all of your social media so your friends can listen to Warriors for Christ. That's the number 4. Add it to your playlist right now.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at briancraigshow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Now, we were talking about Alec Baldwin earlier. Who do you think, Kathy, I know this is close. It'd be a close race, but who is more disliked in America today, Alec Baldwin or Dr. Fauci? I'm going to say Fauci.
I think Fauci.
Fauci.
Yeah.
Well,
because he's affecting lives.
Yeah.
He's saying things and doing things that are affecting everybody's life.
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin's not doing anything that affects everybody's lives.
No,
he's just a jerk.
I agree with that. And, Dr. Fauci, everything that he says and does and puts into action affects the lives of the entire planet. Billions of people's lives are affected every day by decisions and recommendations that come from Dr. Fauci, because whatever he does directs everything worldwide with all the health organizations in other countries on the earth. And I think you could probably make a very good case that out of all of history, all of humankind, they don't call it mankind anymore. It's humankind.
Right.
Throughout the history of mankind, Dr. Fauci may have influenced more individual lives than any other person that's ever lived at that time that they were alive.
Yeah, I think so.
Globally. Obviously,
global thing.
Jesus has affected more lives.
Well, obviously, yes.
But not instantaneously when he was alive, because he wasn't known to as many people. Because you understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Does that make sense?
His church had to grow.
I mean, bigger than Alexander the Great, Caesar. Yeah. He has affected more lives instantaneously
in the moment while he's alive
than anyone who has ever lived on this earth. And I think he's very well aware of that.
Yeah.
You could tell he's very arrogant.
Oh, yeah.
Very arrogant.
He's definitely on his high horse.
And he is, when you go to the Democrats, you go to the media, he's the smartest man in the world.
Yes.
That's why.
According to him.
He's the oracle of all knowledge.
True.
If that was true, what happened to him yesterday would not have happened. I want to play this exchange that Peter Doocy had with Fauci. If Fauci was 5% as smart as he thinks he is, if he was 5% as smart as the media say that he is, he would not have allowed this to happen, because Peter Doocy asked 2 questions. The first one's a setup, and anyone with half a brain would know what was coming with the second question, with the first one, but not Dr. Fauci. Listen to this.
The president about the possibility of new testing requirements for people coming into this country. Does that include everybody?
The answer is yes, because you know that the new regulation, if you want to call it that, is that anybody and everybody who's coming into the country needs to get a test within 24 hours of getting on the plane to come here.
But what about people who don't take a plane and just these border crossers coming in huge numbers?
That's a different issue. For example, when you talk, we still have Title 42 with
whatever that is. That's a different issue. Everyone needs to be tested. Well, what about this other? Well, that's a different issue. Why is that? How is that different?
Well, and the thing is those people do end up on a plane. They ship them all across the country.
That's right.
So that just makes no sense. But Peter Doocy is probably the best White House reporter I've ever seen. And why he's so good, not only does he ask really good questions, he doesn't mess around. He gets to the point. and he asks what everybody wants to know. This guy is just a perfect example of a cool cucumber. This guy is unflappable. He's completely detached, emotionless. He doesn't get look at Jim Acosta, who embarrassed himself and got all worked up and crazy when he would do these he made it all about him and grabbing microphones out of girls. He was totally unprofessional. Peter Doocy is an example of calm. You know what I mean? The guy just is a cool customer. He never loses his mind. He never loses his cool. He's unflappable. You don't know what he's thinking or what he's feeling. He just asks the question, boom, and they look stupid. And then he'll ask another question, and they look even dumber. I mean, the guy really is very good. It's like he's made for this job. I mean, without him, the press briefings would be boring and very unenlightening.
Acosta thinks he's that did what Peter Doocy does and did it better. But Jim Acosta is just an out of control person who would just yell things out. Peter Doocy, you hear that
He's very calm and controlled.
He's calm and controlled, and everything is very well thought out. That setup question with the follow up to Fauci, that was a big gamble on his part because I would assume Fauci, being the most intelligent man in the world.
Brian, he is science.
He is science.
I mean, come on.
He would see that coming. But Fauci is not nearly as smart as anyone says that he is, and he's arrogant, and his arrogance allows him to be, humiliated like that. Could you imagine if that was like Dr. Atlas or something? The media would be running with that nonstop, but this one, they just, nothing to see here.
Yep.
Now, this came out yesterday. This was amazing. The cable news ratings. Out of the top 100 cable shows.
This is incredible.
71, this is in the month of November, 71 of the top 100 cable shows were on Fox News. None were on CNN or MSNBC.
I didn't know Fox had that many shows. 71 shows on Fox
Well, they might
News?
count some of them twice because they're on all the time. Some of them may get counted multiple times.
CNN is a joke. I mean, I know they have this merger coming up, but they have zero credibility. They have perverts, porn stars, ex-cons as their commentators that are giving a political commentary. Donna Brazile, who cheated during the debates. I mean, it's a network of scumbags. I mean, why go to them for the news? And they just lie to people. Then you got now Chris Cuomo, who's gone because he was using his position to dig up dirt on girls accusing his brother. I mean, it's a network of scumbags. I mean, what do you expect? I can't wait for them to come in and revamp. And let me tell you, the first person I want them to fire is Brian Stelter. That guy is a little Napoleon. And he's a guy who was, this is my theory, he's a guy who was bullied his whole life as a kid, and now he's the bully. And that happens a lot with kids that are bullied in school. They grow up and they get on a power trip and they become the bullies now. And they wield their power. And I'm sure he was behind Cuomo getting fired. I'm sure he was all on board with that. He wants to be the big man on campus over there. That's never going to happen because he doesn't have the looks for it, that's for sure. And he just isn't likable. So he has those two things working against him. I mean, you want to be on prime time, you got to be at a different level than what he is. Nobody likes the guy. He's like an Acosta with added 50 pounds. But he's not going to go anywhere. Once they merge, and I think they're going to totally do a sweep of that network and revamp everything and go. They say they're going to go straight news. And this is what I would do if I was taking over CNN. I would, this is how in my mind, how I would do the network. I would fire pretty much everybody. And then in prime time, I would bring back, you got to compete against Tucker. And I would do all news all day, have more field reporters, be out in the field and cover stories. Go interview people. If you want to talk politics, fine. Go out in the field, go talk to people, talk to Americans, see what they have to say. Go get the field reporters, get the story, investigative journalism, special reports, this and that. So then I would do that during the day. At 8 o'clock, I would have like a Larry King show with Ryan Seacrest. Seacrest Live. That's what I would do.
Interviewing celebrities?
Interviewing celebrities to go up against Tucker. Do like they used to do. And that Larry King was the top rated show. And I think with somebody like Ryan Seacrest, they could get that back. And then I would do like something else, documentaries, true crime, whatever. Offer something different than what the other networks are offering because they're not going to be able to compete with Fox on the news front. and then do all news during the day and get back to what they were before all this nonsense. But nobody trusts them. Nobody likes them. Everybody's got to go. Don't you think? I mean, is there anybody there you'd keep?
There is no way to redeem anyone or anything connected to CNN.
No, there's nobody there worth keeping.
You know, and I was talking about this on the radio this morning. Tucker Carlson broke this story about Brian Stelter last night.
Oh, the nanny.
Brian Stelter was bragging that they fired their nanny because they would not get vaccinated, okay? He did this right before Christmas, right during the holiday season. And Tucker Carlson, bless you, Kathy, you okay?
I always sneeze in groups. So
yeah, you allergic to me?
Yes.
Yeah. And Tucker Carlson asked some good questions, and he reached out to CNN. They got no response. He asked if they gave severance pay, and he said she's a minority. So I don't know, she's black or Hispanic. He didn't say which, but she's a minority. So
Probably Spanish.
Brian Stelter fired a minority woman during the holiday season. Did he give her severance pay? Was he paying for her insurance? Is he going to cover her insurance while she's between jobs? Did he give her notice? Tucker Carlson had a lot of great questions about this, and I thought it was so strange that Brian Stelter was bragging about it. You know, what's happened with CNN, if you lose touch with the pulse of the viewers, of the audience, of the American people, you're out of business. And we're in the news business too, although we're opinionators. We have to talk about what people are interested in, not what people are not interested in. Mm-hmm. Okay, there's things I'm interested in that we never talk about because the mass population are not interested in them. You know, I like Star Wars and Star Trek. We don't talk about it on the show because you guys don't care about Star Wars or Star Trek.
I just have to listen to it here at home all the time.
All the time. That's all I talk about at home is Star Wars and Star Trek. But you know, CNN is not redeemable. There is one of the major problems they have. It's not that they're left-wing and biased. CNN was always that. They do not have anyone on there who is likable.
No. And the thing with Brian Stelter, because you were talking about it this morning during the radio show, and somebody had said in the chat that this nanny had been with him for 6 months. So what I would like to know is how many nannies has he gone through?
Yeah, seems to be a problem over there.
I'm telling you, that guy has gone through many, many
You think he
nannies.
Fires a lot of minority women?
He is probably a tyrant to work for.
You think?
Yeah, in any capacity. And I could see him being a nightmare. Can you imagine what he's like with somebody taking care of his children? I bet you he has gone through many nannies. You know, and they probably last about 6 months and then they're done.
That's not good for the kids. You know, nannies take the role of a parent because they're with the kids, taking care of them all day. And the kids get a bond with nannies, and nannies going in and out is not healthy for the children.
Well, I think you made a good point on the radio show is that someone actually had sex with this man and had children.
Yeah, his wife.
Shocking. Yeah,
it's just I'm trying to imagine, and you guys, I mean, this is what I'm trying to imagine.
He is not appealing in any way,
this is what I'm trying to imagine.
Form.
Brian Stelter met a woman,
yeah,
and she fell in love with him and said, "I want to marry you and have your babies." That's just hard for me to imagine.
The world is a crazy place.
It's hard for me to imagine, but we're all out of time. We'll be back next time. I'm Brian, always joined by my wife and co-host Kathy. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we will talk to you next time.
Beautiful jewelry says so much about you. It says you have good taste and enjoy nice things, that you appreciate beauty as well as the world around you. The Ocean Rhyme Shop on Etsy, online at oceanrhyme.etsy.com, carry handcrafted Baroque pearl jewelry that's stunning and unique, just like you. They make gorgeous pearl pieces like earrings, bracelets, necklaces, and a whole lot more. Everything at oceanrhyme.etsy.com is lovely and sparkly, perfect for yourself or someone you care about as a gift. Artist Julia creates the most stunning pearl pieces. You will love the jewelry you buy from oceanrhyme.etsy.com. Each piece is made with care and is very special. Whether you want black pearls, golden South Sea pearls, Tahitian pearls, or freshwater pearls, you will find it at oceanrhyme.etsy.com. They have a wide variety to choose from. Before you shop for jewelry or gifts anywhere else, be sure to visit oceanrhyme.etsy.com. Share the link on all of your social media so your friends can discover the shop too. oceanrhyme.etsy.com. oceanrhyme.etsy.com.